beautiful souls. I hope you're doing well. Today we have a really exciting session because today is a little bit special. As I have mentioned about 2 or 3 months when I started doing publishing CIT sessions again on this channel, I mentioned that if for those who are interested in my work and actually go on my website, on my CIT page, there is an explanation about what my creative intuitive transmissions are. But there's also the possibility to do what we call a special request in quotes. And that basically entails for a person to just fill the form that's on that page. And what I will do, and I explain that on the page, is that I will connect to that person's energy, and with his or her permission, of course, which I will let go of after, of course. And I will, from there, and in connection always to the Mela Collective, which I am part of, and I have spoken about that enough now. We will, and the guidance of that person will offer, if you want to inspire a message, again, through the music, through the background, and an artwork will be created in Japanese washi chiyogami paper, as always, that will kind of translate the whole of this message. However, the person who's actually filling that form and paying for the artwork in advance, they don't know what type of paper they will have. They don't know what will be the message. So it's always a surprise for them. It's not like they're buying an already made artwork, which is another fun thing as well, to buy something in the colors you like. But this is something like a surprise. So it's kind of in a way, it's a private session in a way, but it's not completely a private session because, as I explained clearly to the person who does the session, who fills the form, actually what will be shared on the video session of today, even if it has to do with that person's energies, it remains a general and universal message as well for other people. So it's not, I'm going to keep that person's identity obviously anonymous. I will just say that it's a gentleman, so this way you have an idea of the gender here, but that's all I'm going to say. And the message that will be shared by the guidance, by the music, by everything, by the iconography, will be perhaps something that can be I don't know, a message helpful to that particular person, but also can be kind of a universal message for all of us, me included, through this video I'm sharing today. So that's kind of part of the deal, and the person will receive his original artwork that will be sent by post to him. But still, a digital file will be available of this artwork, as always, for people who are inspired by this artwork. So just wanted to put the context here. So it's a little bit more challenging in the way that a session like that implies that I'm connecting both to a particular individual, but also at the same time making the message as wide and universal as possible as well for everybody who will be guided to find this video and listen to this message. So it's interesting because I'm trying to keep things broad while connecting to someone's energy as well. So it's important for you to know that while we do this session, this way you're aware of these two elements there. So I think it's exciting, and it's a beautiful kind of challenge. Not that it's challenging, but it's a beautiful challenge. So in today's creative intuitive transmission, we have created an artwork, which you can see on my right here, and that is entitled Valantonï. Valantonï, that is spelled here. But before we go into the analysis or iconographical analysis of this particular artwork that was created, we will have a look at the music and the background behind us and the message from the Mela Collective, which I am part of. So a message we are bringing to this individual, but to all of you here today. The title of today's session is Releasing the Resistance to Change. Interesting. We will see that throughout the music and the different messages, we could have added as well another element to this title, which could be the healthy expression of anger or So that's kind of complementary there. So it's just that, YouTube doesn't always give the opportunity to have very, very long titles. So I'm going to keep that one, Releasing the Resistance to Change. But keep in mind that there's other elements there that will be discussed in this beautiful session. So first of all, we're going to go with the music because I think it starts from there. It's really interesting. The first piece of music that we have is a piece of electronic music, which is entitled Kanasando by the group Ryukyu Underground, who are a band of two gentlemen who make electronic music that use traditional Okinawan folk music. Okinawa being an archipelago of islands, which the Ryukyu Islands are part of. So just to put you in the context. So the piece of music in this piece of music is, electronic in style. So it has a little bit of this kind of electronic, it's part of an album, a compilation that's called Buddha Bar. So it has this kind of, I don't know, I'm trying to find the right word, not a bar kind of feeling, but it has this, moody kind of, I don't know, a place, something that would play as an ambiance music in the background for a couple who's having supper or in a bar perhaps, or a restaurant or something like that. And I'm not saying that it's like cheesy music in any way, but it has this kind of central, element to it. That's more what I mean by that. And this song, Kanasando by Ryukyu Underground, is actually, this particular version is actually a remix by Rebirth, which I find interesting. So as always, when there is because there's a female singing in the song, every time there's like singing in another language, I always try to what's the word, to find a translation through Google Translate or something to be able to bring that element of the words as well. And for me, it was very confusing because at first I tried to understand the words or have the words translated to me through through Google Translate before I actually realized that it was in the Okinawan dialect, which is a particular dialect from the Japanese Okinawa Islands. So I was trying to I was trying for Google to recognize the language, and it suddenly gave me like a language which is called Kinyarwanda or Kirundi, which is a dialect of Rwanda and Burundi in the Central and Eastern Africa. And this is one of the most spoken Bantu languages. And, some part of the song were able to be translated in that Kinyarwanda language, but not everything. So I was confused, and I was like, this is annoying. I don't understand. This song seems to be of Japanese, but then there's this African dialect. I was resistive. I was like, I don't understand this. I was a bit rigid, as always, because this is the Tal part of me. I have a Tal and a Hell part of me, and this is a Tal part of me, which is very like, things should be in that particular way, and I don't like when things are like, I don't understand, I don't like losing control, which is interesting because it has to do with our, the message of this session. So I was a bit confused there, and I started reading about this group, Ryukyu Underground, and I realized that actually it was completely in the Okinawan dialect. So there was no, African language there. It was just something to confuse me and to put me out of my comfort zone, which was really the experience I had to go through in this particular session. So, it has to do with the message as well. So it's a beautiful song. The words, I mean, I was not able to find a translation of Okinawa dialects. So reading here and there on internet, what I could find is that, there was two words that meant something that I could relate to. One was do not forget, which is washina yo, and kanasando, the title of the song, which means I love you. So there's this element of a woman singing, I love you, do not forget. I don't have all the elements of the song because, again, I don't speak Okinawan dialect, but there's this element of a love felt by one person towards another, and a wish for that person not to forget them. So there's a little bit of that clinging element in a love relationship that's happening there. So, you know, it's basically a love song, but there's longing, there's a feeling of resisting the end of the relationship, for example. Okay, so because when the person says do not forget, it means that, you know, they went apart, but there's a kind of a resistance to letting go or to move on. There is this do not forget, you know, clinging of one of the elements. So I thought that was interesting because, you know, it could have to do more specifically to a love relationship that, you know, the person who was asked for this session might be dealing with. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's not a love relationship. It can be a relationship with another person, a parent, a child, who knows. But the essence of the message is that there's this little bit of a clinging and a resistance to the change of the relationship, the way the relationship is moving on or changing. There's a resistance to that. And because there is resistance, there is hurt and there is a pain. So that's an important element brought by the song, but there's this kind of feminine aspect I find still about the song that's very, it has to do with more like a feminine loving energy related to the song. Then we have a completely different second song, which is by the group That Can Dance, which I've spoken about very often. Lisa Gérard, someone I've shared a lot of music by in these sessions, was part of That Can Dance, a group that actually disbanded in 1998, but, you know, did some tours and everything. But That Can Dance is a group that I've loved since, you know, teenage years. And That Can Dance was made up of Lisa Gérard, but also of Brandon Perry. Brandon Perry, I think he's Irish, while Lisa Gérard is Australian. I'm not sure. But this song is actually sang song by Brandon Perry. And the title of the song is Desert Song. And it's a very, very rhythmic song. The instruments, and that's typical of That Can Dance, they're going to have a lot of instruments from around the world. It has this kind of mystical, hermetical strangeness to That Can Dance music. That's what I love about it. It's a bit mystical. It's a bit, you know, transcendent. I like that about them. And this particular song, so the pieces, the instruments that were used are very Near Eastern in origin, Levant, and that really has this song is very powerful in terms of rhythm, and it expresses through a male voice, which I find is a nice counterpart to the more female, loving, you know, sensual voice of the first song. The words of this song. Oh, first of all, I want to say something. This song comes from an amazing album, which is my favorite album by That Can Dance, which is entitled Towards the Within, which again is interesting. Towards the Within, which has to do again, perhaps with, you know, going within and exploring what's in there, you know? So I'm coming back to the song. The words of this song are very cryptic and very hermetic, and I have a tough time, and I've tried to find on internet kind of the meaning of this song, and I had a hard time really make up like the synchronized conclusion about what this song was all about. And I think either the person who has ordered the session or you guys can listen to it and find your own meaning to it. But there is a feeling that, or a couple of feelings that come out of this song. One is this notion of sovereignty and strength, and the other, there's this notion of anger and rage. But I do not feel that it's like a negative anger and rage, in the sense that, you know, emotions are not bad or good in themselves. They're just tools for us to transmute or express certain things within us, our energies, and it's up to us to face them and transmute them. And they're motors in our lives as well. So, you know, emotions such as anger or sadness are not bad emotions. They're just an opportunity for us to express things that are within us, towards the within. So what's really emerging from this, the energy of this song, but also from the words, and I'm going to give you just two lines that really speak the essence of the song. You've been afraid for far too long. And the following words are, I've been enraged in my song. So there's again this notion of like, okay, like I've been, you know, I've been afraid for far too long. but there's this notion of kind of sovereignty and putting your foot down and saying, okay, stop, I'm going to stop this, I'm moving on from this. And then there's this other element, I've been enraged in my song, meaning I have stuff to express. I have anger within me that needs to come out. There's that energy there. And again, it's not negative. I see it as well as for the person that it concerns, as well as from anybody who's listening to this session, is that I know, we've all accumulated certain forms of anger. I mean, it can be towards a particular relationship, which could have to do with, like the first song, emotions of anger or sadness or resentment that we have not expressed, and we need to do so in order to liberate and transmute it. Or it can also have to do with our position as Terra on Terra, where we're feeling enraged and sick of this whole matrix, and we want to just like be sovereign and say stop and express our anger, express our rage, and say I'm angry, and I I I really want this to stop, And it's interesting because in the song there's an element to Kanea, like Canaanites, like Canaan. And I know sometimes that Condensed, they're going to use like old mantras and old things from like history, like they're very history buff and things. So maybe it has to do with like an old story, or maybe an old, like, I don't know, cult or something that had to do with Canaanites. And we know that, the cult related to Canaanites, and I invite you to discover what Elena Denan says about that in one of her webinars, really had to do with the cult of Baal, which is really related to the very like deep state and negative element of Enlil and Marduk, and all these very negative elements that played a role in installing cults in the Levant, in the Near East, which the whole cabal and the whole deep state emerged from or is part of. So maybe that element there, that kind of Canaan element there in the song, for me, I would associate it with Terra, saying like stop, I put my foot down, I put my sovereignty, and I say no, and because I have anger to express regarding this deep state. So I see it like as a double thing. It can be like an intimate, personal search for sovereignty and saying no and expressing anger, but also like a common civilization desire to say no more. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and the song is very rhythmic, and it's very like, it expresses a bit of anger, so I thought that was kind of interesting there. And then that's for the music. Then we have our background here, and our background here represents a beautiful lion in stone, and it's roaring, but then it's kind of trying to, I don't know, maybe to express anger, or maybe to scare that young woman that's behind here. But she's standing on her precipice, on the cliff there, and she's opening her arms to source, like like, and she is just like not scared of that lion, and she's totally sovereign, and she's standing there on that cliff like completely confident and non-fearful, and just like, and that lion is a little bit like he's stuck in stone, like he's trying to be scary, but half of his teeth are kind of broken, and he's stuck in stone, so he can't really move. So I think there's an iconographical element there that's really interesting, having to do with different elements. So what I see there is this notion of, through the line roaring, I see this element of trying to express anger. And perhaps, the energy of the lion is not always negative. It can have to do also with like expressing our sovereignty as a being. Like, the roaring lion will be a being that will express its truth and its anger if it has to. But at the same time, in this background, the lion could represent as well, paradoxically, a more not negative energy, but a more stagnant energy that's rigid, that's controlling, and that's kind of stuck in stone, and that's trying to roar something to create fear, but it's not happening anymore, because this woman represents perhaps humanity, or the individual saying, I'm not going to cut up in that fear anymore. I'm not going to get caught up in that control, and that relationship we've had for so long of you scaring me, and me being afraid, either as an individual in a relationship or as Terra regarding the deep state. So I think it's a beautiful kind of parallel element there that I found is really complementary to the elements brought by the music. So now let's have a look at our collage, and then we'll make a conclusion about all of these elements. So our collage, which is entitled Valantonï, is actually we have a black background, a dark background, with a Japanese script, which I think is interesting because again it connects with the Okinawan dialect of the song of the first song. But to me, often when I use this particular paper, it has to do with, especially because of the black background, but also the golden words on it. But the black background gives it this a lot of severity, a lot of gravity, a lot of what's the word I'm trying to find? It's very kind of not dogma like, but a little bit like stuck in stone, like like a little bit like in a religion, for example, you'll have certain dogmas that are written in the book, whatever the religion is or whatever, and there's that element there that's very kind of a little bit rigid and a little bit controlling, a little bit dogmatic, and that has a little bit of resistance to change. It has difficulty in being challenged, and a capacity to say, well, I'm gonna open myself to change. I'm gonna see if I can transmit something different or in a different way. It's very kind of, that's the way it is, cube like. And so this is what's there. But remember as well that it's not everything is black and white, in the sense that the golden element of the words also translate that even if there's a dark, challenging, kind of rigid background to it, the words are in golden, meaning they have to do with source, and the essence of the message is source-like, is godlike, if you want, or a high vibration, high frequency. So it's just stuck on a black background that's a little bit rigid. Then we have but I'm saying this, but personally I find this paper quite beautiful, because even though it's a little bit controlling, a little bit rigid, dogmatic, there's a grace and a beautiful kind of I'm trying to find a word, a beautiful not luxurious, but very noble aspect to this paper that I really like. And I also find that it's not a surprise that this is for a male, because I find that there's a kind of a masculine energy in this collage, which comes from this black energy, but this black background. But again, it's not negative. Colors don't have positive or negative elements like the emotions. It's just, it gives a vibe, and so there's this kind of masculine element there, but a masculinity that's a little bit, perhaps a little bit rigid, or a little bit has difficulty or resistance to a certain change or being challenged. Then we have that big central golden circle, which for me, gold always represents this connection to source. There is these beautiful white birds in flight with beautiful nature and trees and flowers, which for me represent this kind of liberation from the resistance to change, or of the dogmatic element, that just opens itself to source, to the fractal of source that's towards the within of us. And but also that life spring, because life always brings us challenges and opportunities to test us in our resistance to change. And also I see in a way that in the lower circle, which is also black, but this time with golden waves, there's that element of the little bit of the anger, or the emotion of fear or anger that needs to be expressed. And that this is if that is done, there is an opportunity there to reconnect with the fractal of source and to source, which is that central, beautiful birds in flight circle. And through this letting go of the anger and the fear, one connects through the heart, which is that little red circle, which represents for me the heart, with the connection to Terra, with the branches and the flowers, our grounded connection to the heart. then if we let go of that anger and fear through the heart, through expressing the emotions through the heart, then we can connect to this upper circle, which is purple and gold with white birds, which for me represents very much this notion of spiritual liberation, you know, where for me, purple is often related to high frequencies, high vibration, high spiritual energies. So I see there the opportunity for the individual, but all of us to as well to liberate, you know, our anger and fear through the heart by, you know, transmuting the emotions and expressing them, and finding that peace through the opening up of our wings into the spiritual plenitude that takes place when you finally face your emotions, when you go towards the within. Finally, the two large, beautiful golden branches that we see here, which are made out of gold, and the flower of life motif, as I've always repeat, it's for me the representation of our connection to source and the fractal of source that we are. Because when we liberate those fears, those anger, this resistance to change, and we embrace our fractal of the source by expressing through our heart our emotions towards a plenitude, a spiritual plenitude, then our wings open and we can actually just stop resisting and just being in the flow of life and the flow of source, and open our wings in that way. So this is how I personally, if you want, interpret iconographically the message from the music, from the background, in this Japanese washi chiyogami paper collage. So I think we've touched about upon different elements that were important here, either for the person who has ordered this this collage, but also for all of us as you know, all the listeners and subscribers of this channel or listening to this video, is that as a person perhaps, but also as a society, we have endured certain elements that perhaps in our relationships towards, you know, love partners or family or people around us, or through our society in regards to the deep state, we have accumulated a form of anger and sadness perhaps as well. And there is this element of wanting to express that. And I think we are at a place now where it's really, really important that we let go of this anger and fear and rage sometimes, even because it's important to express things this way. It doesn't create dis-ease in our bodies, but in our souls as well. But also because this is the only way in which we're going to be able to release this resistance to the change, because the change is coming like fast right now with the disclosure community, and everything in the world is changing. The economic system, it will be changing, political, health, everything is going to be changing this year and the upcoming years. And as a society, as a people, as Terra, we need to be ready, liberated from these, you know, stuck emotions that are stuck in stone within ourselves, and just like express them roaring like the lion, and just say it. You know, it doesn't have to be malevolently, it doesn't have to be aggressively, but it's okay to express anger and fear and rage sometimes, if we do it in a proper, respectful way towards others. And I think that as a people, we need to do that as well, in order to be able to finally allow and welcome the change that's coming. Because if we're stuck with all these emotions within us, we're not going to be releasing, and we're not going to be welcoming these changes. So this is how I interpret this session today. I hope it will be helpful to that person and to all of you. As I've mentioned, so this artwork, the original artwork, will be sent to the gentleman who has ordered this session. However, the digital file will be available on my art shop at abigaëllerichard.com, and where you can, the energy and the message that's imbued in this artwork, maybe the original one or the artwork in digital file, which is the same size, both have are imbued with this energy, with this message. So, you know, it's not a question of, you know, which one you buy, doesn't really matter. It's more a question of like how, if it resonates with you, with your heart, with your soul. So I'm going to let you go now with the two pieces of music. And while we're creating Valantonï, you'll be able to listen to the two pieces of music and see how this resonates with you. Take immense care of yourself, and thank you for listening.
far too long. I've been a rage in my song. I've been a rose in my rage. I've been a rose. I've been a rose. I've been a rose. You've been afraid for far too long. I've been a rage in my song.